So it's basically this thought that it's basically this thought that I cannot be myself until certain circumstances arise, until certain circumstances come into place. So it's like I cannot be myself until I get this job. And then once I get this job, then I can really be myself. Then I can really live my life. Then I can really be happy. Then I can really be my true, authentic self and use all of my skills and be very active and be a very active participant in my life. Um, or like, I cannot be myself until I make friends. That's a super common one whenever we move into a new place or like find ourselves in a new area, or even if we're just out in public surrounded by strangers, there's like this underlying belief that a lot of humans have, that I have definitely experienced and that I still cling to, that I need to let go, is that I cannot be myself in the midst of these strangers. I cannot authentically express my true higher sense of self in the midst of all these strangers um, because I don't know them, because they'll judge me, because I'll feel like a fool. And none of that is true. None of that is true. We have got to start being our true selves in this moment right now, because that is exactly why we are here. And when we start doing that, the circumstances changes, the strangers turn into friends, the job arises, and the job is perfect, and the job is better than we ever could have hoped for or planned for, because we got it as a result of us taking full responsibility of our lives and and actively coming into our higher sense of self, which the universe, the circumstances change to accommodate that. The circumstances change. It's like if I have this desire to pick up this book, the book is picked up. The book goes along with it, and it's picked up in exactly the way that I pick it up, with my fingers here, and so it's like lifted in a certain manner. It perfectly accommodates the way that I picked it up. It just goes with it. And it's the same thing with jobs. In everything, it's the same thing with all of life. When we are truly living from our highest sense of self and that clear authenticity, then all of the circumstances, everything falls into place. Everything falls into perfect place, and it fits us perfectly. It's like we are all a different shape, and we are laying down on Tempur-Pedic mattresses. And until we lay down on the mattress, that cushion is not going to completely support us in all of our specific crevices and lines and stuff. But once we lay down into it and relax into it and totally be ourselves in our bodies, once we strip off the clothing, which is hindering that perfect contour to our body, then we can just totally ease into it and feel perfectly supported. And we never could have achieved that perfect comfort, that perfect fit, if we had all these other layers on. We've got to strip off these layers. We've got to strip off these beliefs, because what they're doing is they're not a true part of ourselves. So they're making whatever circumstances come into our lives alter themselves to fit the beliefs that we're holding on to, so that never feels like a perfect fit, because it's not a perfect fit. And because it's limited, we feel limited in that way, because beliefs are limiting. They serve us for a certain point, they serve us for a certain extent so that we can learn certain lessons. But once we've learned those lessons, we can let go of those beliefs. They don't ever have to be a part of our mental headspace again. And when we function at that level where these beliefs are just coming in and flowing out and coming in and flowing out, we're not like clinging to them and cluttering up our head, so that like what can get in there is smaller and smaller and smaller, and the happiness that can come out is smaller and smaller and smaller. Once we completely clear out all of that, then infinite knowledge is constantly pouring through us, and infinite love is constantly pouring through us. And we know exactly what we're saying, and there is no filter, there is no like idea. If we're clinging to a belief that like, oh, when I meet a stranger I have to say, hi, how are you, my name is blah blah blah, what do you do, like that totally limits the infinite knowledge, and that makes you feel very controlled and very confined, and it makes you only want to spend time with friends who you have established a very comfortable level with. But what that does is that makes that friend your object of attachment, and as long as you're attaching yourself to that friend, you're not fully free. You don't feel like you can be your true authentic self unless you're with that friend, and then that friend becomes an object of obsession, and then if that friend moves away, then you suffer a great deal, and you try to cling to that relationship, and you try to call, and it's great to maintain relationships, especially it is great to maintain relationships if that relationship is still serving you and if you are still learning and expanding somehow from that relationship. But once you have learned the lessons from that relationship, many relationships are only supposed to last for a short period of time. But we have this belief that when you meet someone and you resonate and you get to know them, once you get to know them, then you should maintain that connection for your whole life. You should have as many close, dear friends as you can, and that's just not how the world works. And then once that relationship, once you've learned the lesson with that friend, and then once that energy goes away and that resonance goes away, because you're no longer supposed to be a part of each other's realities, once that energy goes away, then the euphoria goes away, and you're no longer as ecstatic when you're with this person, and then you start blaming the person, and you're like, what's wrong with this person? They I don't know, they do wrong things. They eat with the fork and they burp, and that bothers me, and if only they would change that. I just want them to change some aspect of themselves so that I could be happy with them again. And then it comes into all these ridiculous little like details, and it just doesn't even make sense anymore. And you can never, and you don't want to say these things because deep down you know that you can't change these things about that person. That's your higher sense of self being like, wait a minute, this is ridiculous, this is impossible, and like, let's move on. You shouldn't say these things because they're stupid, they're false. You can't change certain things about a person, and you can't change certain things about a person in order to make them supposed to be a part of your reality, to make them teach you a lesson so that you can feel those feelings of euphoria again. You can't change who is supposed to teach you a lesson. That just arises naturally. And it arises naturally when we allow it to arise naturally. If we don't allow it, and if we fixate on that one person, then the other opportunities aren't coming up, because really what we're supposed to learn at that moment is that this feels bad. Maybe it's not the other person. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not supposed to be with this person anymore. Maybe I need to change. And so what's happening is you're going to keep feeling those awful feelings with that person until you learn that lesson and until you move on. Or until you let go of beliefs about that person that make you feel that way. And then maybe you are supposed to be with that person and you both can ignite and shoot forward and expand together. But we've just got to let go of those beliefs and clear our heads so that infinite knowledge can come in, and infinite inspiration and intuition, and we can follow that beautifully and watch our lives transform and surprise us in ways that we never could have expected, because it's all about the feelings. All we know is that we are supposed to feel blissful. We don't know how that bliss will physically manifest itself, but we know that if we continue to feel blissful, the physical manifestation of it will make us feel blissful, because it will just have to go along with that. Yeah, cool.